Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for today's session. We would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands within the university's footprint areas, the Awabakal, Darkinjung, Biripi, Worimi, Wonnarua and Eora nations. We also pay respect to the wisdom of the elders past and present, and I would like to extend this acknowledgement and pay my respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. So today's session we'll be looking at Covidence. The majority of today's session will be a demo of Covidence. So just a reminder that the session is being recorded and we'll send you the recording once we have finished. We'll have time for questions at the end, but if you have any questions while we're going, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. So these researcher and HDR workshops are being run and presented by the library's research liaison librarians. So we provide research support to staff, academics and HDR students at the university. Each research liaison librarian provides support to different schools, as you can see on the screen. So today I'm joined by Nicole Ford-Brown, who you can see supports School of Nursing and Midwifery, School of Health Sciences, and also is a hospital liaison librarian. And my name's Jessica Birchall, and I support majority of the other health schools. So if you, after the session, if you want to get in touch with one of us, just go to the library website, find the research liaison librarian for your school, and feel free to email us and ask us any questions, or we can set up an appointment for you in person or online. So what is Covidence? Covidence is a web-based tool that streamlines the production of systematic and scoping reviews. It streamlines the screening process of your review. So it supports title and abstract and full text screening. It also includes the risk of bias assessment. It can also extract study characteristics and outcomes, and it also can export data from the resources and your references. So there are other web-based screening tools out there, but the university has a Covidence site license, which means that all staff and students are able to use Covidence for screening their systematic or scoping reviews. So once you've set up a Covidence account, you can have like an unlimited amount of reviews on your account. So in terms of the screening process, you might be wondering what the screening process does or what this part of the review involves. So your search results will often find more articles than you'll actually need to be used in your final review. So the screening process allows you to filter out these resources that you don't need and that don't meet your inclusion criteria. So screening usually involves, it's a minimum of 2 reviewers, and they'll each look through the studies and see if there's any conflicts. And then you'll discuss if they should be included in your review. So this is where your inclusion and exclusion criteria that you've set up at the beginning of the review, and maybe in your protocol, this is where this will come into play. So these criteria will be the basis for your screening. So a typical process for screening includes the following steps. So first you need to remove duplicate records from your results. Make sure you list those figures of the search results and the duplicates for your Prisma flowchart. Next, you'll examine the titles and abstracts to exclude articles that don't meet the inclusion criteria. So this is that sort of first glance, you can kind of see overall that this won't meet the needs of your review. Next, you'll need to find the full text of the relevant articles that will make it through to the next stage. You'll then organise your research to keep together any reports referring to the same study. So this makes it easier to review and take notes later on in your study if you have all the similar studies put together. And then you'll need to sort of screen the full text articles against a criteria for inclusion. So this is a more in-depth look at the study. This is where you'll be reading the entire study and looking at those finer details and seeing if they meet your inclusion-exclusion criteria. And then you'll make any final decisions on your study inclusion. You'll note down the number of the full text research that you'll then be reviewing for your review. So next up, I'll hand over to Nicole, and she's going to take you through Covidence. We'll give you a demonstration of how to use Covidence.
Okay, so the best way for you to access Covidence is from the library homepage. We'll just scroll down in researcher support. And the second point on this screen is screening reviews with Covidence. If I click this one, this takes you through to a guide which is part of our systematic review guide. But point 4 here is screening with Covidence. In the bottom tab we'll see here, the screening results tab gives you that little bit of an overview that Jess has just gone through around what the process involves. The second link here is our getting started, how to log in. The rest of these tabs I just will show you now while we're here are little videos that are produced by the company that owns Covidence on how to do certain features. So importing records from EndNote, how to screen title abstract, full text, and then it also has a data extraction element to it as well. And they have a very wide range of videos and support material available to you on their website, as well as linked here within this guide. If you get stuck at all, just to remember that these things are here to help. So the first time you use Covidence, if we come down here, we want to go connect to the University of Newcastle Covidence link. Now, this will link us to the Covidence website. Okay. The first time you use this, you'll need to fill in your name and email address. So this is your request to join the University of Newcastle's subscription. If you do that, hit request, you then get sent an email with a link for you to confirm, and then you can come back and create a sign-in username and a password. Now I already have an account, so I'm just going to click sign in at the top. So the first time you log in, you'll usually have this section blank with the start the new review. So you can see here that I currently have 3 reviews going. So they just sit below here, and I can, so because you've joined through the University of Newcastle, you can have as many as you like. So I can click on any of these and they'll just open up. And I'll be able to continue that process from there. But today I want to start from the start with you. So we're going to create a new review. Okay, and to do that, we click Start a New Review. Okay, and we'll just fill in the details on this page. We select what type of review we're doing. So we'll say we're doing systematic review, and our subject area, so Food science. Now this part here is quite important. You'll always see your name, but then you'll see the University of Newcastle. It defaults to your name, but you can see because I've done other reviews, I had 3 on that front page, I have no reviews left. So the first time you use it, you'll have 1 listed here, but that's all you get if you choose your name. So make sure that you always tick that you want to be using the university's account, because that gives you the unlimited access. And then we click create. Okay. This part, the next page that pops up is because I've selected a review and using this program is usually around the fact that you're screening reviews with another person. So, or multiple people for that matter. So anywhere from 2 up is usually the default for doing screening results. So what I'm going to do now is you'll see here that I have myself listed here, but if we want to invite another reviewer, so for today I'm going to invite Jess to this. So we just enter her name and email. Say invite. Okay, so Jessica should shortly get an email saying I have invited her to my review, in which she can join and be screening along with us. So I just want to go through now, because the settings are the first thing that appear for you when you've started a review. I'm just going to go through these settings first, and then we will import some records to have a look at. So if I click back here on the first one, review settings. So this is where I can, if I've decided I didn't want to call that this name now, I can edit that from here. The other things that you can do that might be useful is enter here the date that you last ran your search, that these records that you're bringing in are from. You can put in a copy of your search strategy. How I mentioned the number of reviewers, this is where you can change that. So you can see it defaults to 2. You can just click the drop down to change those from here. Okay. So add as much or as little to that as you like. Okay, so reviewers is where it landed us at the start, where if you need to add anybody else, you can do that from here and just click invite another reviewer. Our team settings let us see what's happening within the review. So we'll come back in and I'll show you this as we do a few votes on things, but it lets us know how far along I am in the process. So how many I've done versus how many conflicts I've chosen, how many I've said yes to. And it gives a little bar here and will say how much I've done. And then when Jess is in, it'll have her name and it'll tell us how much she's done, just to give you, not to really rank yourself against each other or anything like that, but just to see how long you've got left going in that review process. Criteria and exclusion reasons. This is a quite a handy one, because we can add in, so once you've probably done your review and you're at this, you would have already had developed some inclusion and exclusion criteria. Now we can list these within here. So I'm going to pop a few in now based on the articles I'll bring in for this. So I've got a few articles in an EndNote library around back pain. So what I'm saying is my inclusion criteria today was back pain, and they had to be in English. And the exclusion criteria was I didn't want to know about any infection, pregnancy, back pain, or any COVID-related back pain. Now I can add them there and I'll say save. You can add things, yeah, so that's saved. We can add extra reasons around why the full text screening. So when we get to full text screening, we have to choose a reason why that article was not relevant. So we can edit those or add reasons here. So I would probably suggest a discussion with your group, with your supervisor, with your other reviewer around what other exclusion reasons you want to add to that full text, if anything is different than what's already here. The other very handy thing to add in is this section here, manage highlights. I'll show you what this does when we add some records in, but it's again similar to our inclusion exclusion criteria. So any words I had here in inclusion, so if we just say back and click add, and I'll say spine. And our exclusion words that we don't want to know about, you'll remember I typed in earlier, so pregnancy.
Spell pregnancy.
Oops, spell it right or it won't find it. And I'll say done. So there. What happens when we bring in some articles is any of these words here that it finds in a title and abstract will be highlighted green. And any of these words that we've got here as inclusion will come in red. So it just helps you, it's just a handy way for you to identify kind of quickly that maybe this one's got too many red words and I didn't want that within your results. Now they're all saved. The other last one here is study tags. Now where study tags become useful if you want them is you've probably imported a very large range of papers or records to review. If you wanted to, each of those records as you've got them in, you could add a tag to them. So for example, you might want to tag everything that's a randomized control or a systematic review. And if we add that here, let's say this is an RCT, and I add that. So you can add as many to your list as you like. And it will allow us to tag any records that come in with that. And then you have functions where you can filter, and we can only look at RCTs first and rate those. Okay. So we've got all our settings set up. I'm just going to click back now here on webinar demo, which will take me back to my home screen of this review. All right, so this is where this lives. So we can see I've got imported references. I've currently mostly got nothing, title, abstract, full text. So it sits here. So now we want to bring all of the settings that we've done or edited, just live here in case we want to change them again. Now what I want to do now is import some records in here so we can do some of the review. The easiest way to do this is to have all of your records. So the process would be all of your records are in EndNote. You've done your deduplication process that Jess identified earlier. For anybody that's unsure where that is in EndNote, it is in library and find duplicates. My EndNote will find you the duplicates based off exact author title and year, and then you can remove those extra ones. Okay, so to bring these records across into Covidence, so we would recommend you deduplicate in EndNote first because it's a much quicker process. But Covidence also deduplicates for you as you bring any in. So look, it can pick up things you may have missed along the way. Now, to create a file that is compatible to with Covidence, I'm highlighting the records that I want. So I've got 21 here. I'm going to go File, Export. Just going to put this file on my desktop so I can find it. And we want to save on the bottom here, we want to save it as a text file. And we need our output style to say refman RIS export. Now, occasionally this won't be in your list if you haven't done this process before. To bring it in, you open up the list and say select another style. And if I just enter in there, refman, you just click it from this screen and say choose. And it's just here. And I'm going to just save that to the desktop. And this is the file I want to bring in to Covidence. So now if I come back to Covidence, I'm going to say import. Now your first step is to bring these records into your title and abstract screening. Now that is, in this case, it says screen. So this is where I want all of these records to go. And I want to choose my file I just made from EndNote. Which is this text file just here. I'm just going to open. You can see it's popped it just there. I'll say import. Okay. That was quite quick. So what we've seen here is it's now imported. So you'll remember my EndNote library had 21 records. I purposely left a duplicate in that because I just wanted to show you what happened. So it's imported the file and you can see up the top here, it has picked up that one duplicate. So I can click that. And what it tells me is here was my duplicate and this is the other reference that it's actually put in. So if you at all wanted to, you could go, oh, look, if you actually found that it wasn't a duplicate, you've got the option there to say it's not. But because this is, I'm just going to leave it where it is. Okay. So it's brought all of those 20 articles now into title and abstract screening. And it says here, Nicole, you can screen 20 papers and I've currently done nothing thus far. So if I click on continue, what we're now presented with is each of these articles with their title, details and abstract. We'll see here we've got a no, maybe or a yes. This is where we vote on them. So remembering that we added a few things in our settings now. So we added our inclusion and exclusion criteria earlier. If I click here and say show criteria, it sits this at the top for you. So as you scroll, it sits at the top here. It won't go anywhere. So that's why that's kind of handy to go in, especially if you've got, like, you might be really familiar with your criteria, but you might have a second reviewer that maybe isn't. So it's handy to pop that stuff in. The highlights might be turned off. So just click that one to say show highlights. They're the ones that I had in that highlights box where I was saying they'll come in as red or green. So you can see I didn't want to know about an infection, so it's coming as red. And we've got back here in a green. And we said, yes, we wanted to know about the spine, but we didn't want to know about pregnancy-related spine injuries. So they're our highlights, and that's how they have come in for us. The other thing that we had was the tags. Just need to shut that abstract up. So you can open and close the abstract here and make it drop down or close up. So what we can do is, if I say, just for example, say this number 1 here and I needed to add a tag, I would tick that. Let's just pretend it was a control, a randomized control. What I could do is say, click tags, and I've said, yes, that's a randomized control. And then if later on in time, if at any point you wanted to only see those, you just click on filter. And let's click RCT and so filter, and we should just be left with record 1. And it wants to retract it, so there it is. Oh, did it work? No, we lost record 1.
And if I could just interrupt, so when Nicole invited me as a reviewer, that email came in really quickly, and you just have to say, you know, I accept and log in, and all of those elements that Nicole has added, the criteria, they show up on my screen, including the tags as well. So I can see where she's put, you know, the randomized control trial as well. So that'll go across to all your reviewers as well. So they'll be able to see, you know, the same settings that you have set up.
So what we do now in that case, I'm going to put my criteria back on. Now we're at the point of, for you, you'll be reading your title, reading your abstract and making a vote. Anything that we've said no to sits here and irrelevant. Maybe we'll move into a resolve your conflicts, and the yeses move through to the full text for screening. So as we go through this, if I say yes to something and Jess says no, they also sit into resolve conflicts for us to have a discussion, and then we will do that process again and say yes or no to move it through to the full text. So I'll just, we've only got 20, so I'll just say, I just say yes. So if I say yes, you'll see they just disappear as I click them. I'll click a maybe. No, we don't want that one. So you can see it moves through pretty quickly. Okay, so they're all done now. So now if I click back to our main screen, what we will see we can see here that we've got one conflict. We've got one vote on 14 and 5 are done. So what we will do now is, and then we can say, we'll see here that obviously we've voted yes to 2 together, and they've moved through to the full text screening. So you can see that one here. So if we go in here to resolve conflicts, you can see here that we have both voted on this one. We obviously either both voted maybe, or did yes and one did no.
You voted yes and I voted no, just so it would pop up in this bit here.
Yeah, cool. All right, so you would usually just have a chat about that, but in this case, we'll just say we decided to keep it. And we'll say yes was our final decision. And what we should see is these fall through to, and we say no. So you just work your way through this group.
So we just have a question. So if you say yes and then read the full text later and realise you don't want the article after all, can you change your decision through the system?
So you would actually vote, if you've read your full text and decided it still didn't need, to be included, you would just choose no from the full text option, because it would obviously over there be that it didn't match.
So in that initial title and abstract, if you say no, and then you say yes, and then when you get to that full text part and realise, you know, no, I don't want to include it in the review, then you can say no, you can do that.
Okay, so we can see now we've got 0 studies left to screen on our title abstract. There were 5 no's out of that, and we have brought through 15 to our full text. So then we go continue. Now what you want to do with full text is this part will need to upload the PDFs. So you have 2 options. The first is we can just say, if you've got a relatively small amount to add from within here, you can just say upload full PDF. And it's got a new drag and drop feature, which wasn't there yesterday, so that's very new. So there you go, you can actually just drag it and drop it there, which is quite quick. We'll try that. Okay, and then we can either just say choose a file. Just got a couple on the desktop, we'll just add them. So you just navigate to wherever your PDF is. It's thinking, yep, so it's uploaded here, and I just say finish. We can see if I've already, like if it's got the DOI is listed here, it does link you out where possible to a web version. Sometimes it takes you to something, you see that you may have to subscribe to, but occasionally you can be lucky and you can download the PDF from those links as well. So I've uploaded the PDF here. Like I say before, I'll just add a couple. So I've just added a few. So we can see, so it just sits here under the link here, and to view them, you just click here and it'll open up for you to read. The other way, which can take a little while, so I won't demonstrate it at the moment. But the other way, if you've got quite a few that you need to do and upload the PDFs for, is this function here at the top. So if I click this, bulk upload missing full text, what it does is just steps you through a process that allows it, what it does is the first one here, download studies that are missing full text. So anything I hadn't added a PDF to manually here, if I said download the studies, it downloads a file for you, which you can then import back into EndNote. Use EndNote to find those PDFs. And then you create an XML file. So in the same way we did file and export as a text, you need to file and export as an XML to add that here. And then after you've done that, it pops up and tells you just to have all of those PDFs that you need to be in the one folder. So anything you'd identify, just save them together and drag them across. And then the process will be that it will automatically add all of those to your records within Covidence there. So it takes a little while. So if you just follow through those steps, it does actually work.
So that was the question that Rebecca's just asked. Will EndNote upload the PDFs into Covidence, or do you have to do them manually? So it really depends on how many full text PDFs you need. If it's a small amount, I would do them one by one as Nicole's just done. But for that bigger group, you need to do that sort of, I don't want to say it's confusing, but follow those steps for that bulk upload where you'll export that file from Covidence, import it back into EndNote, get EndNote to find the full text for you, and then bring that file from EndNote back into Covidence with the PDFs as well. So I don't want to say it's a confusing process, but it's a long process. So if you get to a place where you have to do that with like a lot of PDFs, a bulk upload, I definitely recommend contacting your research liaison librarian and getting them to walk you through that, because it's a few steps back and forth.
Yep. Cool. Thank you. So we had 15 to look at here. So if I just go and vote on these, so you'd obviously, again, you'd read that whole PDF. And so if you've said yes on your title abstract screen, but now you've decided no, that was not relevant, when you go exclude, you do have to choose a reason. So, and these were the lists we had in the settings. So you could, after that discussion with your reviewers, you could add more to this list if you find that you're all wanting to exclude something for a common reason that's not there. You can add extra things in. So I'm just going to say run study. Same process applies. If Jess says include and I say exclude, we'll get conflicts again. So they're done. I'll just go back to our home page again. So we can see now we had 5 to resolve in this slot. So we'll go resolve our conflicts.
Sorry, I lost track.
Oh, that's it. So this has come up because I think we've ticked different exclude reasons. Okay, so we just have to choose why was the right one. So in these ones we have done a yes or one's chosen a different one. So let's say this one. So you can see it takes a little while to click over. So there was 5 here. And because we had 10, if you, obviously we're doing it together for the purpose of today, but you'll obviously be doing it independently of your other person. So this awaiting other reviewer just tells you where your other person's at, so you know how many they've got to go, because it doesn't, when you've got more than one, it doesn't actually, I should have said this at the start, it doesn't, if your reviewer, if you're entitled an abstract screen and you have completed everything, but your reviewer has not, you can't proceed to full text screening. It won't be available for you to go through until the other person has done theirs as well. So just something to keep in mind. If you haven't seen everything fall through yet, or it doesn't let you do something, it's likely that your people haven't done that as well yet. So you can see we've done all of our reviews here, and the last section it pulls into here is your extraction. So Covidence does obviously have an extraction tool built in into it. Now there's some videos on this guide that we were looking at earlier about how they work. But this part we usually leave to that discussion with yourself, your co-authors or your supervisor around which extraction tool to use. Some may use this, others may use like Excel templates or different tools to actually do that extraction method. So that part we leave for you as a discussion. The other thing we've got here is it does also build a Prisma chart as we've gone through the
Can you just talk about what you mean by extraction?
Well, that's your part where once you've read all of your, so you've read all of your documents, more around if you're doing a systematic review, you've read everything and you, for lack of a better word, you are extracting all of that data and all of that information. What have you found out of those articles into a template? So often,
depends on what type of review you're doing. If you're looking at quantitative, qualitative data, that's the type of things that you can extract using the Covidence tool. But like Nicole was saying, that's kind of the bit that your team or your group have to determine when you're actually doing the review. Yeah, and some people use, the idea with Covidence is you can sort of use as much or as little as you like, and there are some people that use every setting, including the data extraction, but some people take the full text studies out and use another data extraction method. So yeah, it's just whatever works well with your team.
The last one I thought I'd show you here is the Prisma. So it builds, kind of based on what we've done here today, it will have built a Prisma flow diagram. But do remember that it's only built on what we've put into the system. So it removed one duplicate, but 99% of the time you've removed all of your duplicates before bringing it into Covidence. So just something to remember if you do start to use this. I'd usually, a lot of people I see usually keep track of their numbers outside of Covidence as well, but it can be okay to look at this as well.
So there's a question as well about, do you get a report at the end of the process? So I think this would cover the sort of basics of how many studies you had, how many you screened, but yeah, just take into account what Nicole was saying about this only includes what has been put into Covidence.
Yeah, so we can see we brought 21 in, we lost a duplicate, we did a title abstract screen of 20 and 5 of those we didn't want. We've got our full text and it tells us why we didn't have them. And then those other ones have gone down here into our included list. So it does break it down for you, but yeah, just bear in mind you've done a bit of work before you get here. Okay, and you can export that from here too. All of, usually everything we've got lives. That lives here on your thing. So you can see here on the front page 2 that you had your duplicate, your 5 are relevant, 3 were excluded there, and we ended at the right at the end we've ended up with 2. So it kind of gives you that bit of overview on the front page. Just to show you those settings again, just because some of them will have changed because we've done some work. This is where we were at the start, where we added all these things in. When they're into team settings, you should see now, before it was just me and I was empty, but what you can do now is see that we've both completed the process. So it's all green. We have both done 20, and it just tells you, it just chooses that bar, and you can see a bit of it, like if you were waiting on your other person to do that, you can see, you know, maybe, oh, Jess's only got 2 to go, I won't send her an email or anything and say where you're at.
If you scroll down, does it include the next? Yep. So you can see here that Nicole's finished hers, but I still have a few to review.
Yeah. And then you've got your extraction if you use that section. Okay, so I think the big, like from your settings, the main thing I usually set up is you add your reviewers, you make sure your settings page has got everything you want. And I find that inclusion, exclusion criteria and those keyword highlights, usually the best or the most useful things if you're just using it, that quite basic option of, you know, and you don't want to add tags or filter by studies because you have to go through everything anyway. I find those 2 the most easy to set up and most useful when you're working through that screening process.
So we've got a question. If there are articles that you know you want to use, let's say something from Grey Literature, would you recommend still importing it into Covidence even though you know you're going to use it? I would say yes, because it still has to go through that review process. If it's a group, you know, everyone kind of has to agree on, yes, we want to include it. That way, you know, if someone else on your team spots something that, you know, I don't think this should be included, there's an exclusion criteria that you've missed here. So everything should go through the process because that's the point of the review, to do things in a systematic way, that all the resources go through the same process. Yeah.
I'll just stop my share. So that's kind of the basics of setting you up with a Covidence. But if you've got any questions, like Jess said at the start, do email any of your research librarians and we'll step you through the process. It's fine.
Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself if you like. Let me just pop that link in the chat. So you can see here we've got a survey that we'd love for you to fill out. Just gives us if you've got any suggestions for any topics that you'd like us to do for other webinars, please feel free to let us know. If you've got any other feedback, please let us know. But if there are no other questions, this is just to let you know what workshops are coming up next. So you can see next week we've got a Covidence Q&A session. So this will be run by the Covidence support team, so the people that support the platform. So they're going to be doing a bit of they'll sort of run you through the experience of a student who's using Covidence during a review, and you'll be able to ask any questions during that session. So if you're interested in that, please register the same way that you registered for this workshop. We've also got a session coming up on how to promote your research, one on patents, and another one on copyright. So if you're interested in that, please go to the library homepage, the research support section, and have a look at some of those workshops. Thanks everyone for joining us. And like we said, if you need any help, please contact your research liaison librarian and ask any questions that you have. Thanks everyone.